If you want to understand a country's foreign policy, you've got to understand what's actually happening in that country, what the policies are, how they're playing out. So we've talked about that. Does this make China, in some ways, you could say it's a wounded bear? It really does face some massive challenges. It's not as healthy as it might look. Does it make it more or less dangerous militarily, and in particular in relation to dominance in the Western Pacific, Taiwan, the South China Seas, so forth?
It's one of those questions that nobody has really come up with a good answer for. You can make the case that somehow or other, if Xi Jinping is in trouble, then Taiwan will be a little bit more secure. I wouldn't want to make that case because I don't know enough about how military decisions are made inside the PRC. I don't know what the transmission belt is. If Xi Jinping says go tomorrow, whether the military will say, right, boss, we're on our way, or whether they will say, no, wait a minute, let's hold off. We're not quite ready yet. We just don't know enough about how that system works to be able to say with any degree of confidence that we understand how this is working. Why? Because we don't have the access to the information about how that system works that we would like to have. I mean, American politics, Australian politics, most Western democratic politics are pretty much open. There's nothing open about the PRC's political system. And that's not by accident. That's by design. They don't want us to know, and they don't want their own people to know. Probably that latter factor is more important than the former. And they worry about students in the United States. Why do they, and in Australia, there's a lot of students, and what they do is they send people to keep an eye on them. And you aren't going to know who they are, and the students probably aren't going to completely know who they are, but they're going to be on their best behavior. So their concern about students in Western countries is that they don't come back and lead a revolution when they get home. And so they are very careful to make sure these students understand when they're at the University of Sydney or any of the other universities here, we want you to know that we're keeping an eye on you and we know where your parents live. So that's not an ineffective means of monitoring the situation. Why do they attack American and Australian journalists when they're in China? Because they don't want them to report, and they do whatever they can to prevent them from having access to Chinese audiences or to Chinese intellectuals or to anybody that might be in one way or another against the regime. They don't miss a trick. And then, of course, they've got the propaganda apparatus, which tells you everything they want you to know. And they send people overseas to consult with their American colleagues, and they give them the government line almost without fail. Some people would like to pretend that, oh, my friend told me that this isn't going well, or that statistic might not be completely correct. But by and large, all those people are party loyalists, party members, and they're not going to tell you something that they can't, that they don't have permission to say. So it's a very controlled system. And even though some of the strands of that control are beginning to fray, and things aren't what they would like them to be, it is quite likely that situation is going to get worse for them. If this situation develops as some of the diaspora media are suggesting, and Xi Jinping is in fact getting weaker, then people are going to start to talk more, and there's going to be more dissent and more protest and more dissatisfaction expressed, because the fact that we aren't hearing about this dissatisfaction doesn't mean that it isn't there, and surely it is, because people that are treated the way that the ordinary Chinese people are treated, if they have a chance to protest, they will.